Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 49 of the Clutch Dump, otherwise known as the last episode before Ben and I record from a bar.
Yes.
Because that was the deal.
Or at least an intro from a bar.
Yeah, exactly. We are coming at you from our regular locations, but we are really recapping things that we experienced at a different location.
This is
true. We were
true.
both at Circuit of the Americas for the Red Bull Grand Prix of the Americas, MotoGP at COTA. We got sunburnt, we drank, we celebrated, we watched.
That pretty much sums it up.
Some excellent two-wheeled action. And Ben turned me on to one of my favorite motorsport meme pages of all time. Shout out to Depression GP.
Such a good page. If you don't follow Depression GP, please go follow Depression GP on Instagram.
Yeah, make sure to go check them out on Instagram.
It's not either of us. We're not plugging our own stuff. That is actually just a page that I came across. It's just really funny.
Yeah, so make sure to go check them out. We are live Monday and Fridays recording for upload either the same day, but if I had to guess, today our episode will upload Tuesday. So make sure to check in every Tuesday, every Saturday. We are on YouTube at the Clutch Dump Pod. We are on all podcasting platforms. Just search the Clutch Dump. Look for the TCD logo. And make sure to follow us on those channels. Make sure to like these episodes. Make sure to download them if you're on audio. And make sure to turn on those notifications so you don't miss an episode of the Clutch Dump.
20 years of trying, 20 years.
And Senna sprints away. Banana
straight. Rossi's right in behind Lorenzo.
The 101st Indianapolis 500 is won by Takuma Sato. Dale Earnhardt will come to the caution flag to win the Daytona 500.
Ben, we have WEC at Portimao. We have IMSA at Long Beach. We have IndyCar at Long Beach.
At the same time.
MotoGP at COTA. And then we have a piece of sad news, and we have a piece of exciting news. And last but not least, NASCAR at Martinsville.
Yep.
Ooh, which one do you want to go to first?
Well, I think we should cover MotoGP at COTA since, well, that's where we were, and that's what we did this weekend.
Fantastic. And I can actually
comment and offer opinions.
Well, while you get us kicked off, I'm going to go grab a paper towel because I have the sniffles.
Oh my gosh. Well, while Nick does that, I'm going to mute him so that you don't have to hear him probably fall over in his kitchen. This past weekend, we did have the Grand Prix of America at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and it was nothing short of a very exciting weekend, not only because of MotoGP, but also because of Moto3 and Moto2, and I suck because I didn't put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I'm fired. 1 second, I quit. Nick's muted, he doesn't know yet. Nick's muted, he's muted.
I was doing such a cool, I'll take it from here, I was covering for you, but now you've blown it.
I'm sorry, I muted you because I assumed you would,
blow my nose. If I was going to do that, I would have muted myself, Ben. It's our 49th episode.
I anticipated you knocking everything over in your kitchen, so I muted in advance. So my apologies, but
MotoGP was fantastic. It was 92 degrees on Saturday.
It was really hot
with a humidity of over 70%.
It was like 120%.
Saturday is like you want to play Russian roulette, even though there's 5 in the cylinder.
Right.
You're very eager to just end it all.
It was very hot.
Sunday, though, it could not
fantastic
have
weather.
been a more beautiful day. It was 73 degrees, breezy, sunny, not a cloud in the sky, some fantastic atmosphere for racing. But we did see, between the 2 days and between Moto2, Moto3, and MotoGP, the stark contrast in track temperature and track environment catch, total? Maybe 6 or 7 guys out across the 3 series?
Well, let's see. I think there were 3 crashes in Moto3. I think there were 2 in Moto2. And for Sunday's race, we had 9 people DNF.
Well, and for context, we're not talking crashes where 2 guys plowed into each other crash. We're talking
all on their lonesome.
The nose slides out.
Yep.
I forget what that's, low siding.
Yes, very good.
And then there was
he's a
there was 1 or 2 high sides.
He's a fan.
Well, I'm a fan, but I'm not an owner because, as we discussed, I can't afford it.
Not yet.
Okay. But Moto3 and Moto2 had much better races than MotoGP.
As per usual.
Which is, I was going to say, it is the norm.
By the way, that's just how it works. If you're a MotoGP fan, most people don't follow MotoGP or Moto2. I loosely follow both of them.
My dad
in
watches
the
them pretty
terms of
intensely.
I'll rewatch the races, but I really don't follow any specific drivers.
My dad was like, "Oh, Celestino Vietti or whatever." He goes, "Oh, this guy's on," and I'm like, "Who the hell is?"
I mean,
who the hell is that?
I know some of their names. I recognize some of them. I don't know any of the team names. I don't know who's been there, who's not.
Well, we do know Gas.
But we do know Gas because that's the funniest name.
I told my dad that. I was like, "Hey, Dad, I don't know if you know, but there's a Moto2, right? Moto2?
MotoGP.
Or is it Moto3? Oh, I was like, "Hey, Dad."
All three, by the way. But MotoGP is the new one.
I was like, "Dad, there's a team called Gas Ducati." And he goes, "Why?" And I was like, "More gas."
I'm gonna let that one stay in.
That's fine.
But
I don't understand why they're named Gas Ducati. Okay,
it's Gas KTM, so I was gonna let it go.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Well, they're red, so
that's
their
fair
fault.
enough. But to be fair, Gas's motorcycles are all red. I think you can actually only buy them in red. I don't think you actually get to pick colors.
I was thinking Beer Monster Ducati.
That's what it was.
Yes.
But we did have some fantastic racing, specifically for Moto2 between Pedro Acosta and Tony Arbolino on Sunday's race. Absolutely outstanding battle.
I had so much fun, dude. The racing was so good.
They were going back and forth for the whole weekend. Fantastic to see. I imagine that Pedro Acosta will be on a KTM in MotoGP next year.
Probably.
I imagine he will be. So he was,
because from what the commentators were saying, he's been a front runner the entire time he's been a Moto2.
Right. So he's the 2021 Moto3 champion, and then last year he finished 6th in the championship.
Yikes.
Think, which isn't fantastic, but to be fair, he is very young, even by Moto2 standards. So,
right.
But he seems to be on top of it this year, so I hope we see him in MotoGP next year. Speaking of MotoGP, I'm going to go through our qualifying results, and so far, none of this will be very surprising to anybody. Starting off with Pecco Bagnaia in P1.
Which, Pecco, if you're listening, tell Ducati to have some more merch for anybody that's not you, my friend.
Exactly. We want more. You had to walk over to Ducati Island to get the non-team merch. So
where the hell was Ducati Island this year?
So they moved it back to between Turn 1 and the main grandstand.
Why?
Because that's where it's been most years, actually. They just moved it over 2 years ago to be in the center. It's always been over there. It's where it's always been.
It was more than 2 years ago that it was in the center. I remember the first few times, 2014, 2015.
Maybe
it was in the center.
Maybe it was. The first time I ever went to GP was 16. So, and I remember it always being there. But that's where all the cool bikes get to park up, and then they have giant tents and stuff. But the merch line was an hour long. It really wasn't worth it. So Pecco Bagnaia P1, followed by Alex Rins, who is the star of the weekend, as we'll get to. But putting
spoiler alert.
Right, heads up. But putting a satellite Honda on the front row is insanely impressive. I don't know if anyone told him Hondas aren't allowed to do well unless you're Marc Marquez. You're legally not allowed to do that.
Or Marco Simoncelli.
Yes.
Rest in peace.
Or any of the other successful Honda riders. But recently, you're not allowed to do it unless you're Marc Marquez.
Right.
So Alex Rins, P2, Luke Marini, P3, Alex Marquez, who we thought was going to be on pole. He was tied with Pecco Bagnaia in qualifying for a good minute, and then had a crash that is pretty disgusting.
Yeah, he decided to vomit like a drunk college girl into his helmet.
Right.
And then proceeded to dump the bike. So,
well, I've sneezed.
No, yeah, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Post-vomit, I don't expect him to do anything on the bike. But I'm just saying, he didn't vomit and happened to stay on.
I've sneezed in my helmet before, and dumping the bike seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to do. And then Marco Bezzecchi, your championship leader going into the weekend, qualified P5. Alicia Spargaro, the top Aprilia in qualifying, P6. Fabio Quartararo trying to do something on that Yamaha in P7. Maverick Vinales, P8. Johan Zarco, P9. Miller was in 10th, followed by his teammate Brad Binder in 11th. Jorge Martin in P12 on that other Pramac. Joan Mir, P13 on that Repsol Honda. Franco Morbidelli on the other Yamaha P14, Miguel Oliveira 15, Fabio Di Gianantonio P16, Taka Nakagami on the other LCR Honda P17, Michel Pirro, who is standing in for Enea Bastianini for Factory Ducati P18, Raul Fernandez P19.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say, when you mentioned Morbidelli, last year and the year prior, I was like, Morbidelli, let's go. Like, Morbidelli. However, he's been stinking it up.
He has.
And the qualifying order that you just mentioned proves that.
It really does.
However, aside from Alex Rins, I think Morbidelli had the race of the field. He went from, 15th to...
He went from 14th
6th?
to 8th.
Okay.
Still picking up six positions is really impressive.
On a Yamaha, on a very slippery track.
On
that
a
was catching a lot of
slippery
people
track
out.
that is...
Now, granted,
right.
He did dump it in the morning warm-up on Sunday. They did the morning sighting or whatever. And going into turn 16, because I'm in 15, just so y'all know, Ben was in 12.
Right.
So I'm in 15, and, I'm just watching the bikes go under the bridge as they go around the right-hander, and, no amount of turn angle, and all of a sudden the bike goes down, the bike catches the gravel and flips. And I was like, oh, who is that? And I heard somebody go, I think that was Morbidelli. And I was like, oh.
Of course it was.
Of course it was.
Michel Pirro, P18, Raul Fernandez, P19, Augusto Fernandez, your rookie, P20, Stefan Bradl, P21, who is standing in for one wounded Marc Marquez. Nick appears to be excited about that.
The only person in the entire field that is racing, that it was at this race weekend, obviously not full-time racing,
right?
But racing that was racing when I went and saw my first MotoGP race 11 years ago. So
it's pretty impressive.
Bradl, because Stefan Bradl was on the LCR Honda at Mugello.
Right.
He was always on the red, white, and green Honda. Mm-hmm. And I was telling my dad, because my dad, he's not on social media, so when the substitutes were announced, I was telling him that. And I was like, I'm Stefan Bradl. And my dad goes, oh, there's a name from the past. And I was like, yeah, he was always a 6th through 10th rider that was battling with Cal Crutchlow and, oh, shoot. What's the...
He's lost it.
Alvaro Batista.
There we go.
Woo. I was reaching way
There
back
we go.
there,
There we go. Had to dig for that one.
The cogs were turning.
And then Jonas Folger in P22. He is
best part of
standing in for... Who is he standing in for? Paul Espargaro on the Gas KTM. Gas. And then your Saturday sprint race. So for those of you who haven't heard us talk about the first two MotoGP races so far, and haven't heard us talk about MotoGP this season at all, there is a new format. We do have a sprint race every single weekend. So we have qualifying on Saturday and the sprint race on Saturday. It is a half-distance race. So this weekend it was 10 laps, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a 3.7 mile long track. It is the longest track on the MotoGP calendar. It has more turns than any other track on the GP calendar, and it is notorious for being the hardest track on the GP calendar.
Well, yeah, and it's because it was designed, obviously, with F1 cars in mind, and obviously these bikes just now getting aero in the last couple of years, that still doesn't help them to the effect that they would need to be well-suited around COTA. I will say, I think COTA, aside from Mugello, is the second highest top speed that they reach.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Because because it's GP and all of my experience was one time that I saw them 11 years ago. But at Mugello, when we were there, they were reaching 221 and 222.
Jesus Christ.
Which I know at COTA, they were reaching 211? Oh, 215?
Right.
Okay. But that's with all the aero on them. So, I mean, they're draggier than they normally are.
Right.
So anyway, but it's crazy because Mugello, you come out of that probably third gear on a bike, sweeper left. So you got a much quicker run, but coming out of turn 11 at COTA is second gear. I don't even know if first gear is used in racing and motorcycles, but
actually it might be first gear. No, it's probably second.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I just think it's impressive that they get that close to those speeds with much less of a run coming out of it. But the sprint race, I apologize.
The sprint race was won by one Pecco Bagnaia, which surprised nobody. He looked very...
And it was by a gap.
He looked very strong all weekend. He won by about 3 seconds. after having a fantastic battle with Alex Rins, who did finish second where he started. So well done to Alex Rins, looking very strong all weekend. Jorge Martin moving substantially up the grid from P12 to P3.
Luca Marini having a horrible start and going way wide into turn one, and the Mooney Yamahas had the pace.
Ducatis
To finish better. Ducatis, whatever. You know what? I quit. I'm done.
This is what happens when you agree to comment on GP.
You have red bikes that aren't Ducatis, they're KTMs. You have Rossi running a team on Ducatis when they're not Yamahas. When he finished his career on the satellite Yamaha that had the Monster sponsorship, and the Monster sponsorship's on the factory Yamaha. It also doesn't help that, I should just assume, if I don't know, it's a Ducati. Because there's, 4 Hondas in the field, there's 4 KTMs, and the rest are Ducatis.
Yep.
Right? Because 2 factory, 2 satellite of each, and then, yeah.
So 4 Hondas, 4 KTMs, 4 Aprilias.
Oh, Aprilia's, duh. Who's the satellite Aprilia team?
With you, RNF. They were the satellite Yamaha team last year.
Color. What colors were they?
Black and blue. I mean,
that narrows it down.
It really does. I'm very sorry, but
we really need more creative MotoGP liveries.
Really do. They're really LCR is the easiest one to spot.
LCR and Repsol Honda.
That's it. Yeah. Other than that,
Honda's got their color game down. Honestly,
Gresini's pretty easy to spot. Those are good.
They're the bluish.
Yeah,
ones?
yeah. The light blue ones. Those are good looking bikes. So With You RNF was the Yamaha satellite team last year, and then they decided they wanted to win races, so now they're on Aprilias.
With You, what was it?
With You RNF. So while Nick looks that up, I'll keep going down our sprint race order. What's up?
No, it's just funny because you're while he figures out what's going on.
Oh, well, he's looking stuff up. So Alicia Spargo finished P4, which well done for the factory Aprilia rider. Brad Binder moving substantially up the order into P5. Marco Bezzecchi holding off and getting a suitable amount of points in P6. Luca Marini, his teammate, P7. Miguel Oliveira having a fantastic weekend for someone who has a pretty serious leg injury in P8. Jack Miller, P9, moving up 1 spot. Maverick Vinales, P10, moving down 2 spots. Joan Zarco, P11. Joan Mir, P12. Taka Nakagami, P13. Morbidelli in 14th. Raul Fernandez, P15. Augusto Fernandez, P16. Fabio Di Gianantonio down 1 spot into 17th. Stefan Bradl moving up 5 spots into P18. Quartararo down in 19th. He did not have a good race.
Well, didn't he dump it?
He did dump the bike on lap 2 or 3, and then
turn 1, right?
Yeah, it was turn 1, and then had to kind of come back and try to gain as many spots as he could. So he finished outside of the points on the sprint. So not a good result for the factory Yamaha rider. And then Jonas Folger, P20, and then Alex Marquez and Michel Pirro both DNF'd from the sprint race. Nick Patty, what did you learn?
Letting you say, well, I learned that you don't know how to say Michele. Which would be the Italian pronunciation of
it's a reserve
Michelle.
Driver. They don't matter.
Rider, Ben. They're riders. MotoGP terminology.
Oh, sorry. What did you learn about With You RNF?
Ben's I'm learning that I'm about to...
We're not making it to episode 50.
Yeah.
Nick, what did you learn about With You RNF?
I learned that it is basically a Yamaha, but now a Ducati.
I mean, yeah, it's all the same sponsors. It's just stickers on an Aprilia now.
Yeah, so. No, it's... Oh, or Aprilia. Whatever the hell it is.
The other Italian ones.
I don't care. Yeah, well, it's name an Italian brand other than Ferrari and Lamborghini. It's okay, maybe you think of Alfa Romeo, but other than that, none of them matter. Who cares?
Right.
Okay? Nobody asked. Which, if we were done with MotoGP, that would have been a perfect segue to Sebastian Loeb. But we'll get to that later.
54 titles. That's all I'm saying.
What?
Aprilia has 54 world titles.
And look at them. They're a second-rate Italian motor.
I only know that because it's a sticker on every single Aprilia road bike you buy. It says 54 world titles right on top of the gas tank. Well, I don't want to say Porsche because then I feel like I'm calling myself out. But Porsche on
every time they won like a sports car championship in the 70s, it's like the special edition Porsche 924. We took our shittiest car and put stickers on it. And it's like, gotta let everybody know that. Anyways,
is that all you learned? Is that all your thing?
Well, about with you Yamaha.
Okay.
But in terms of the sprint race, I learned that the people that were sitting in front of us were diehard Quartararo fans and just couldn't handle the fact that their boy wasn't winning. And I thought to myself, are you the Lewis Hamilton fan of MotoGP? Because
they are, by the way.
Quartararo
fans
won a title,
are the Lewis Hamilton
and
fans.
Now that he's not winning a title, you just can't handle it.
Yep, that's because they are one in the same.
I already told you this, but for the sake of the podcast,
right.
They were whining and moaning. They're like, come on, man, Yamaha, give him a good bike, man. He'll do well. Like, they were so upset. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, my brother, it was not that long ago that Quartararo, let me think, won a world championship on the same team that just like 2 or 3 years prior to him winning the championship couldn't give Rossi a bike to compete for top 10s.
Yep.
So I don't know what you're complaining about.
And he almost won it last year. So
yeah, exactly. And he almost won it last year. And I'm going to spoil race results. He got third in the race.
He did really well.
So, like, to make it more applicable to Drive to Survive fans for Formula One, Alonso's getting podiums, and I'm like, I'm just happy he's getting podiums. But meanwhile, Quartararo fans are like, damn it, a third? He's not winning?
Yeah, well, they're also like Max Verstappen fans, where like when Max got second, he's like pretty upset about this. Horrible weekend, honestly. It's kind of terrible.
Meanwhile, Alex Rins is just living his best life.
Living his best life.
And Pecco, do you want to... Okay, so I'll just... Spoiler. Pecco, DNFs out of the race.
Most exciting thing I've ever seen.
Turn 2. Alex Rins won. Oh, I know, dude. When Pecco dumped it, there were a lot of people that weren't happy, but I just instinctively
specifically
was like,
the people sitting next to me who own Ducatis is who that would be.
Yeah, I was so happy, and I was wearing Ducati merch. Like, I was like, yes!
Everyone's like, dude, what are you doing? This is your guy.
Yeah, but Pecco said that it was 100% not his fault.
So we'll go ahead and get into that, and I will talk about.
I would say I want your explanation or why.
So
why
I'll go ahead and talk about.
That.
So not only did Pecco Bagnaia DNF, but 9 people did. So Stefan Bradl, Taka Nakagami, Joan Mir, Pecco Bagnaia, Raul Fernandez, Jack Miller, Alex Marquez, Aleix Espargaro, and Jorge Martin. So all of those were caused all on their lonesome, except for Alex Marquez and Jorge Martin. So where that happened was in the S's in turn, well, that'd be 2, 3. So that was turn 3, first left-hander after the big downhill, and Jorge Martin goes to the inside of Alex Marquez and loses the front end of the bike, and he low sides. The bike slides into Alex Marquez, and it's actually a pretty terrifying video of Alex Marquez. Is basically his leg is pinched between the two bikes, and he just goes sliding off the track. Thankfully, didn't go into the wall. Got stopped by the gravel trap before then. That's why we have gravel traps.
Yeah, Alex Marquez had a rough weekend with vomiting, and now that. It's
right,
like,
so DNFing in the sprint race, and then DNFing in the actual race.
Right.
They did do a social media post. Apparently, they're not going to kill each other. Well,
that's always good.
But everyone else took themselves out. So the track conditions were very different. It was humid and like 95 degrees on Saturday for qualifying in the sprint race.
Yeah, it was miserable.
And then for the race, it cooled way down, but the track was probably still kind of slick, so it was a very difficult race. But the one that surprised most people of all of these was Pecco Bagnaia, who is your defending world champion and is still second in the standings. And
I thought he was third.
He is second,
So who's third?
Barely.
Oh, Alex Rins is third.
Alex Rins is now third.
Yeah.
So Pecco Bagnaia, in his DNF, he crashed in turn 2, which is a fairly odd corner to crash in. Most people don't go down there.
In the replay, coming from someone who doesn't understand motorcycles,
please.
It looked like he was wide of the apex, like he turned in late. Because if you look at the line of Alex Rins and everybody that followed through, they were much tighter to the apex. Now, I'm not a MotoGP expert, but I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two.
Right.
The wider you are going into a corner means you have to lean further to make up for the lack of, or the compromised angle.
Or slow down more, but yes.
Or slow down more. So my guess is that he slightly missed turn in.
Right.
Had to turn in sharper, and because he was leaning more, you can throw in some, the track conditions.
Right.
And then I think because it was a low side, like it
was a low side.
washed out from.
Thankfully, all of the wrecks this weekend, excluding one in Moto3, were all low sides, which is good.
Yeah.
High sides normally end with broken people, which we don't like. But turn 2 is a very odd corner to crash at. From what I've heard from the drivers, it's about one of the most normal corners on the track, because it's.
Pecco's like, oh yeah, hold my Peroni.
Because it's downhill and on camber. Like, the corner's working with you.
It's so fun.
Right.
I
so
love turn
everyone
2.
was very surprised to see that. But the big news is that Pecco Bagnaia said it was 100% not his fault.
But he also didn't say it was the bike's fault.
Right. So
like, he just was like, I don't know whose fault
it wasn't,
but it
me.
ain't mine.
And that's the thing, is if you watch his post-race interview, he's like, I honestly have zero clue what happened. I have no idea. I didn't do anything different. Didn't do anything weird.
But that's not good enough. You're a MotoGP champion, not only just a race winner, a champion. That would be as if Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen going into a corner, everything seems fine, and then just stuffs it into a wall. And instead of saying, "Oh, something broke," or "I screwed up on my brake bias," or
the tires were done, or whatever.
Poof! I have no clue how
car
it
just
happened.
spun, went into the wall. No idea.
It's like Nicholas Latifi, where he's like, Suzuka when he took the wrong turn, he goes, "Oh, that was weird. I don't know what happened."
No idea what happened there. It's the exact same. So,
but see, he's Latifi, not Pecco Bagnaia.
Right.
So, Pecco, don't be Latifi.
What Pecco said is the bike is really good and too consistent is the problem. Which is such a weird thing to say.
Marc Marquez is like, what I would have.
I would do anything.
I would break another collarbone solely to have a consistent bike.
So he said that he would actually prefer the bike be a bit less controllable and he ride a bit slower, which is a crazy thing to say. That makes no sense at all. I just think I think exactly like you said, he just ran a bit wide and the bike just low-sided.
Ben, that was a great race. You had a dominant car out there. Do you want your car to be worse and slower?
Yes.
Or better and fast?
Apparently, you want it to be worse and slower.
Who knows? I mean, listen, if you're Pecco and you say that, let's say I'm one of the Ducati team bosses, I'd approach him and be like, listen, Francesco.
We've worked really hard.
Yeah, it's like, first of all, screw your stupid nickname,
right,
Francesco. You can go to a worse team.
Fine.
I mean, if you want a garbage bike, there's a whole host of bikes to choose
I heard
from.
the satellite teams are hiring.
Also, may I remind you, Ducati has historically been insufferable to ride, and we've actually,
horrible
believe
bike
it or
to
not,
ride.
we just figured out how to make two wheels work, and it got you a chance. It's like Pecco when he won the championship didn't go like, I want to thank the team. But what I really would have liked is a shittier bike. If they could have given me a worse bike, this championship would mean like...
It's one of the weirdest things, and I think he should have just been like, hey, I made a mistake, low-sided,
I think that
move on
next
next
heat
week.
is affecting him.
Yeah.
He's like, it was not my fault. Also, it's the team's fault. The bike is too good, but somehow it wrecked without me doing anything.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through your merely 13 race finishers and your race results. And the P1, Alex Rins, outstanding race, did everything right all weekend.
He deserved it.
Totally deserved it. It's Honda's first win since COTA 2021, and it's LCR's first win since 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who was the rider in 16?
Jack Miller.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it has been
Jack Miller
forever since LCR has won a race. Also, somehow, this was LCR's 100th Grand Prix. I don't know who's writing the script for MotoGP, but, because, last year, Aleix Espargaro won his first race, and it was his 200th Grand Prix start. It's sometimes
we do live in a simulation.
Just sometimes, people will win races or whatever, and you'll look at it and it'll be like, oh, it was his 50th start or whatever, and everyone thinks that Alex Marquez is going to win the next race because it would be Ducati's 73rd win, and he's number 73. So that is currently the next thing that's going to happen in the simulation.
I need the meme of Max Verstappen kicking things for Pecco. He just kicks the front wheel and Pecco's bike goes
thunk. So Alex Rins P1, Luca Marini P2, outstanding first podium for Luca Marini.
I'm really proud of Luca Marini.
Well done to the baby
like
Rossi.
We said in the sprint, screwed up, and he fought back. I told my dad, I was like, I got to cheer for somebody, and I was like, maybe I'll just cheer for half the grid because I love Italians.
Maybe I'll just root for half Rossi. And then Fabio Quartararo, like we talked about, P3, well done, outstanding ride for being on the only inline 4 bike on the grid. Maverick Vinales P4, thought if the race was 2 laps longer, he might have caught up to Quartararo. He was gaining.
Quartararo was dropping down.
Right. I think in the last 3 laps, he dropped like 4 seconds on Quartararo. So he was gaining quick. Miguel Oliveira, P5, outstanding ride for someone who was in such a big accident in the last race. Marco Bezzecchi, P6. He is still your championship leader, which we'll get to in a second.
He won't be for long if he rides like he did at COTA consistently. That was pretty. My dad was telling me apparently it's just not his style of track. But,
yeah.
I mean, he was not good.
So, and Johan Zarco, P7. Franco Morbidelli, P8 on the other factory Yamaha. Fabio Di Gianantonio, P9. Augusto Fernandez, P10. Nick, would you like to pronounce Piro? What is the first name?
Michele Piro.
Michele Piro. There we go. And Jonas Folger, P12, and Brad Binder, P13. Brad Binder, God bless him. I mean, dumped the bike like 6 laps into the race. And honestly, it was just one of those things of, it's MotoGP. 1st through 15th gets points. Only 13 people finished. So it doesn't matter that he finished a minute and 20 seconds behind first.
The guys next to us in the PSL tent were from South Africa.
Tough.
And they were both wearing Brad Binder polos, Brad Binder hats. And I was just sitting there. I was like, why? Like, I get that I'm an American and I have to cheer for Logan Sargent, but you don't see me wearing a shirt and a hat. Like, have a little class, all right?
Yeah. So that is our MotoGP race. And your championship standings are as follows. Marco Bezzecchi is in first with 64 points. Pecco Bagnaia with 53 is in second. Alex Rins, after his outstanding weekend with second in the sprint and first in the race, is at 47 points. And Maverick Vinales is just behind him with 45.
How tight it is, and I love the MotoGP point system more than
very
Formula
close.
1.
And I'm not going to
because
talk
Formula 1, believe it or not, you don't need 8,000 points to make it interesting. You could go back to, I don't know, like 2013, where it was like, so-and-so wins the championship with 106 points.
Like anything before the hybrid era, actually. Just anything before that.
Honestly, screw hybrids. That's the downfall of humanity.
That's what it is. And I'm not going to touch on it because we've spent way too long talking about motorcycles, but there was the Hand-Built show. Well done to Revival Cycles. You put on a fantastic show. Also, there was an F40, an LFA, a roof Porsche, and a gorgeous 993.
Didn't even look at the roof.
I didn't even look at the roof because it was next to an LFA. Nick Petty.
Let's do IMSA because I didn't get to watch IndyCar, unfortunately. Oh!
Nick Petty's getting a tattoo.
Oh! I am. Yeah, wow.
Would you like to explain that?
So, I did say at Daytona, or maybe prior to Daytona.
I think it was prior to Daytona.
After. Okay, Ben thinks it was prior. That if the Porsche 963, not if, but when it got a win, that I would have to go get a Porsche tattoo. Somewhere, somehow. And Porsche won at Long Beach. And I was so happy. As they were under yellow, and it was finishing under yellow, I was getting on my phone, and I was like, I have to post this. So, Long Beach was one of the better IMSA races
Very
I've
good
seen
IMSA
in a while. I think the sprint races are a better format for the GTP cars as of now.
Right.
At least until the BOP gets tighter, where over long distances, the faster car doesn't expand that gap because they're so much faster. So if you didn't watch it, the Long Beach Grand Prix or Grand Prix of Long Beach for IMSA was an hour and 40-minute race. I think there was 2 pit stops, maybe total.
I think
maybe
it should
1.
be 2.
Okay, should be 2. 1 driver change in most cases. I think Porsche had 2.
Interesting.
They only had 1.
Okay.
It was WEC where there was 3 drivers.
Right.
So 1 driver change. Porsche. I don't need to focus on Porsche. Okay.
Nick, relax.
Okay. So, also, there was no LMP2 or LMP3 because this track is way too small and compact. So, it was just GTP, GTD, Pro and then GTD. I can never remember if it's GTD and then GTD AM or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Both of the GT classes.
Your top 3 in the GT classes, starting in GTD. Frankie Montecalvo and Aaron Telitz in the number 12 Lexus RCF GT3 in third. Roman DeAngelis and Marco Sorensen in the Aston Martin in second, which, by the way, it was Marco Sorensen's first time on a street course, period. And he put that car on pole.
Well done.
And then Brian Sellers and Madison Snow in the BMW from Turner Motorsports, the number 1 car, the reigning champions, the Daytona winners, and this is their 3rd year in a row across different cars to win Long Beach. So congrats
impressive
to them. GTD Pro, Klaus Bachler and Patrick Pile in the FAF Porsche coming home in 3rd, which is a shame because they were... It was a potentially race-winning car.
That's true.
And in the end,
but we're on the
strategy,
podium.
Race pace, didn't pay off.
We'll take
Jordan
it.
Taylor and Antonio Garcia finished 2nd in the Corvette C8R.
Fantastic.
And then Jack Hawksworth and Ben Barnicoat finishing in the Pro Vassar Sullivan Lexus entry in 1st place in GTD Pro. Moving on to GTP, which was the best because Porsche won,
right?
But most entertaining and also most dramatic class of the race. We had 2 DNFs, but I'm not going to get to the first one quite yet. Well, I guess the second one, but the bigger one. So the first DNF and the less consequential one was Sebastian Bourdais and Rigger van de Zande in the Chip Ganassi Racing Cadillac prototype. Very weird. Literally green flag waves. The field's coming down to turn 1. Sebastian Bourdais is like, I shall brake here. And as soon as he goes to hit the brake, apparently the brake bias was just off the charts wrong because he literally, the car starts to brake, shoots to the left to the inside wall, clobbers the inside wall, and then goes into the runoff area outside of turn 1.
This is the weirdest accident.
Out of the race automatically.
Yep.
Like,
super weird.
It wasn't even you can't win a race in the first corner, you can lose it. They didn't even make it to the first corner.
Right.
It was like, dude, just relax.
They lost on the first straight. So.
They lost at the word go. So they DNF'd. 6th place, Tom Blomqvist and Colin Braun in the Meyershank Racing Cheater, number 60 Acura ARX.
Haven't forgotten.
Really hope they don't. They're not my only job option. Pipa Durrani and Alexander Sims in the Action Express Wheeling Cadillac in 5th. BMW had a great race.
Fantastic
Philip
weekend.
Eng and Augusta Farfus in the number 24. BMW finished 4th. Matt Campbell and Felipe Nasr in 3rd place in the number 7 Porsche 963.
Well done.
Connor D. Filippi and Nick Yellowly in the number 25. BMW M Hybrid in 2nd. And in 1st place, Nick Tandy and Mathieu Jaboudet in the number 6 Porsche 963. I am
well
so
done.
Freaking proud of them.
Nick's hitting the table.
Happy. Now you might ask, wait a minute. It wouldn't be IMSA if there wasn't Wayne Taylor Racing. Oh, boy, would you be right. Well, Ricky Taylor went way wide with, I would say, probably about 20 minutes to go. It was like 20, 25
Very
minutes
close.
to go. He went way wide, like into the runoff, and I don't remember what turn exactly, but if I had to do the math, it would be turn 6 or 7.
Sure, I'll take your word for it.
That's the meme. You can cut and paste this into a
There we
meme.
go.
So he went way wide into the runoff, had to turn the car around. After he was closing down on and battling with Mathieu Jaminet for the lead in the number 6 Porsche, my heart was in my throat. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Because Ricky Taylor was working his way through the field in that Acura. Now, the reason he was so fast, besides being in the best car, is he had fresh tires.
Yep.
So the only way Porsche was in a position for a podium is Porsche didn't change tires the entire race. They double stinted their tires. And
that is impressive.
They had never done that. They had never double stinted their tires. Period. So they didn't know how it was going to react. They didn't know
Apparently works.
how the car was going to well, yeah, marginally. So they didn't, in any of their pit stops, take tires, which I say any of their pit stops, the one pit stop.
Right.
But they didn't take tires, so they gained on-track position. And so Ricky Taylor was working his way up through the field, passes the first Porsche, meaning the third-placed one, passes the BMWs, catches up to the first Porsche, goes deep, spins it around, comes back on track. I'm like, whew, we got it. Done. works his way past the number 60, past the wheel in 31, past the first BMW, past the first Porsche, past the second BMW, catches up to Mathieu Jaminet again, and we're talking with, I would say, about 8 or 9 minutes left, like just inside 10 minutes.
Right.
And they, for about 2 or 3 laps, have some fantastic battles. Like, too wide, going around the tight concrete lined streets of Long Beach. Incredible racing. 2 laps left. So they come around, and it's looking pretty desperate.
Right.
They don't get the white flag. Ricky Taylor is coming up to turn 1, and he decides to absolutely chuck it up the inside, which Mathieu Jaminet in the post-race interview, he said, I'm going to do my best to quote him here. And they're like, what did you think when you saw Ricky send it? And he just went, shit, he ain't going to make it.
He ain't going to stick that.
It's not going to work. So Ricky Taylor ends up bidding it into the turn 1 tire barrier, finishes under caution. Porsche gets the first and third. And I will say this. If there wasn't the caution, like I've said before, and it was right at Sebring, Mathieu Jaminet will not give up a race win without taking himself and whoever's challenging himself out.
Yep.
So I don't think it would have been a clear-cut win for Ricky.
Right.
But I don't think Porsche would have had it in the bag. But to finish first you must finish. Ricky Taylor made, unfortunately, a fairly rookie mistake in the sense that he had
a very Forza Lobby-esque move.
He had a full lap still to overtake. Or actually, no, 2 laps.
Right.
Because the lap that he crashed on was the second to last.
Right.
He had a full 2 laps to overtake, which means just stay right on him. If you have the opportunity with traffic, make it. If not, try the move into turn 1 just the next lap, on the last lap, when it actually is do or die. So, anyways, that is your IMSA Grand Prix of Long Beach. Now I have to figure out where and what tattoo I'm going to get to commemorate the occasion.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask if you were going to get the...
I'm probably just going to do Porsche scripting.
Okay, I was wondering if it was going to be the Porsche script or if you were going to get the Carrera script or like the Turbo script or if you were going to get the silhouette like your brother's tattoo.
I'm torn.
Okay.
Because I could just get the Porsche scripting, which would be badass.
It'd be cool.
I could get...
Forehead?
I'll probably do
neck.
inside of the arm.
Okay.
No.
Right.
Or just the 963.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I don't want for the rest of my life, if this car doesn't win anything else...
Could be its only season.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if I mean, it is the prototype of, like, my generation for Porsche. But the 919 was better, so let's not...
I would go with just a... all-encompassing Porsche tattoo. Yeah. So I was wondering if you were going to do the script or the crest or a silhouette of a car.
Definitely not crest because I don't want color.
Okay.
So
that's fine.
I guess I could get it black and white, but
you could get it black and white and just not fill in the corners of it. Just do the outline of the crest and then the horse in the center or the reindeer, whatever it is in the center.
Rudolph, whatever the hell it is. I don't know. Well, that was Long Beach. We also have WEC. I'm now torn because Max Rozier, who works with IMSA, who is a friend of mine, he calls it WEC.
I've heard a couple more people call it WEC, and I don't know what to do about it. So for the sake of maybe pleasing the internet, this weekend we had a WEC race, and it was the 6 hours of Portimao. And Nick, please don't do that again. And in the not GTP class, in the hypercar class, because we have to remember, they're different. They're not different. They're different.
But the French have to feel different.
The French have to feel special.
Oh, so, speaking of WEC, but before we get to the race, did you see the new Peugeot Lego set?
I thought you were going to talk about the livery, but yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, the hypercar?
Yeah, I'm totally going to buy it. It's so cool.
It looks so good.
It's so good. I thought you were going to talk about the livery.
It's a concept. It hasn't been confirmed.
Oh, dude, but if they do that livery for Le Mans, I'm going to be stoked.
Still not as good as the Porsche livery.
You're right, but I will be buying I'll agree with you. The 963 has a very tasteful, very Porsche livery on it. However, if they do run that livery and they have it on a shirt, I will be giving some Frenchmen money. But we did have the 6 hours of Portimao where we did have
a boring race.
It was pretty boring, unless you're in a Van Wall, in which case it was very exciting.
I was going to say, unless you're Jacques Villeneuve.
So WEC and IMSA, for some reason, are different, and it's very annoying. So we don't have GTD and GTD Pro. We just have LMGTE AM. That's all we had this weekend. And we also had LMP2 and Hypercar. So starting with GTE AM, we had the number 85 Iron Dames 911 in P3.
Which they were so strong all weekend.
Very strong all weekend. In second place, the number 83 for our 488 GTE. Yes, they're still running the 488, even though we have the 296 in GTD.
And it looks better.
And are you referring to the 48 or the 296?
No, the 296.
Okay.
I'm not on crack.
Well, I'm just saying, as a road car. Oh, all right. And then in first position, the number 33 Corvette C8R of Ben Keating, Nicholas Verone, and Nicky
Our boy
Katzberg.
from Houston.
Yes,
he did it.
So double podium weekend for Corvette Racing. So well done.
Sticking it to them Europeans.
Nick, do we want to talk about LMP2? If we don't want,
well, it was also a double podium weekend for Porsche, but you're just not going to mention that.
Well, that's true. It was. I didn't even think about that. Well done to Porsche. Porsche, you can build a decent race car.
I need a 963 tramp stamp.
Please. That would be hilarious.
I'm at Daytona next year, and I'm just like, hey, BMW, suck this. Lifting up my shirt.
I don't want to talk about LMP2 because I'm not that interested in it, so I'm going to put the results up right here if you're on the
Fantastic.
YouTube. However, we are going to talk about Hypercar because Hypercar was very interesting, and it was a devastating weekend for the number 4 Van Wall team.
It was a devastating weekend for the entire field if you're not a Toyota.
It really was.
Everybody was a lap down other than the Ferrari, right?
No, everyone was a lap down. They won by a lap, but...
Hey, WEC, you know how you said, balance of performance will be self-governing?
It's not.
Maybe time to rethink that.
I think not. Methinks no. So, the number 4 fan wall of Jacques Villeneuve, Esteban Guerreri. Did I pronounce that right? Yes? No?
I was meeting myself. He was about to blow my nose. I don't know. I haven't heard his name.
Okay, and Tom Dillman. They had one of the craziest crashes I've seen in a prototype in a long time. A self-caused, or mechanical one, not like the Ricky Taylor Forza send up the inside.
Right.
Just all of a sudden, the right front brake, I guess, locked up.
Exploded.
It just exploded, and there's fire out the wheel well, and the car just spins and goes into a wall.
We're talking about the Van Wall,
We're talking about the Van Wall.
Okay.
One of the craziest crashes, which sucks because I think the Van Wall is one of the best-looking cars on the grid.
Absolutely. And we both love Jacques Villeneuve.
And we both love Jacques Villeneuve, because who doesn't love Jacques Villeneuve? There's actually
anybody that's a Michael Schumacher fan from 1997.
I was like, actually, there's probably a lot of people. I retract my statement.
I don't.
And then the other people who did it wasn't a very good race for would be the number 5 Porsche 963 team, and that is Dane Cameron, Michael Christensen, and Frederick Makowecki, which I totally pronounced that wrong.
Because Dane Cameron is so good. He's so fast.
Yep. Nick, do you know what happened there? Because I did not get a chance to watch the WEC race.
I don't. So I watched the last hour and 10 minutes at the GP race on my phone.
Because...
Other than that, I have no idea, because I also didn't have audio.
Well, they finished 33 laps down. In front of them was
I know that they brought it into the garage.
Right.
Some massive mechanical failure.
I don't know what the mechanical failure was.
Yeah.
That's because we were busy peoples.
We were busy drinking and watching motorcycles go vroom, vroom, vroom.
Drinking $12 beers, which, by the way...
Mine was 18.
Oh, because you got... Yeah, okay, because you got a Voodoo Ranger. Yeah, by the way, Bud Light is not worth $12. I don't care where it is. It's just not. And then
it's not worth $5.
It really isn't. Anyway, racing. In P9 was the number 7 Toyota GR010. They finished 7 laps down, and that is Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jose Maria Lopez. And in 8th position, they finished the race, people. They did it. All the way from Texas, the number 708 Glickenhaus SCG007 of Romain Dumas, Ryan Briscoe, and Oliver Pla.
Said it again, and I'll say it, or I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Glickenhaus, you are a laughing stock. Laughing stock.
Here's the thing. I want him to do well. I want
Other
there
than
to be
Van
success.
Wall literally exploding, the Van Wall's better.
I want them to do well.
Right.
I want the American underdog story again. I want it to be the new GT40.
Why we don't need to worry about an
It just won't
underdog
be.
when we can just be the top dog and Corvette wins everything. So,
But yeah, you're kind of right.
I'd rather stake my American flag with Corvette than Glickenhaus.
So well done to Glickenhaus for finishing a race. Or with Cadillac. We could stick it with Cadillac. They seem to be doing all right.
Yeah. Oh my God, dipshit.
And speaking of the best looking car on the grid, the number 93 Peugeot 9X8 finished P7. Well done to them. The Peugeot hasn't been looking super strong. It did half a season last year. I'm hoping to see it do very well. Yes.
Remember after Sebring, what Peugeot's excuse was? The ground effects on this car do not work around the bumps. It will be so much better around Portimao. And then here it is around Portimao, and it's not really
Fifth and
any
seventh.
better.
Oof.
Yeah.
P6 was the number 51 Ferrari 499P. That is the Antonio Giovinazzi car. In fifth position was the other Peugeot 9X8. That's the number 94 car. And our one Cadillac, our lone GM product, finished P4, the number 2 Cadillac V-Series of Earl Bamber, Alex Lynn, and Richard Westbrook. They finished 2 laps down.
That's gotta be probably the best driver lineup in the GTP
It's
field,
really
the
good.
hypercar field.
It's really
if
good.
you were like, who would you be scared of? It'd be that. The second would be the 963 with Kevin Estra and Lawrence Vantor, but I'm not going to lie, I think Andre Lauderer is pretty washed up.
And they finished P3 in the number 6 Porsche 963. They finished a lap down. And on the same lap as them was your second place finishers, the number 50 Ferrari 499P of Antonio Fuoco, Miguel Molina, and Nicholas Nielsen.
Which I guess that's an improvement if the Ferrari and the 963 can be on the same lap.
There we go. We figured
But
something
Toyota
out.
still can't.
Right. And then your number 8 Toyota GR010, having a flawless race, running away with it. They were ahead the whole race, and they had no issues, and that is the number 8 car of Sebastian Buemi, Brandon Hartley, and Ryo Hirakawa, which I totally butchered that last name.
It's Ryo Hirakawa. You got the last name
There we
right.
go. Which of the two is the one I was likely to get wrong. But well done to them. Hopefully the Van Wall can figure it out. They've been pretty cool about everything since it's their first season. They're like really just hoping to finish, and that's about it. So their social media post was pretty humble and pretty good. So well done to them.
Yep.
Hopefully as we get closer
What's the next race?
to Le Mans, I was going to check that.
Is Le Mans 53 days away,
Yep.
I think?
So, it is 2 weekends from now, 6 hours of Spa. Nick,
We're having a
I'm
watching
coming
party
over
for that.
Yes. Wait, no, it's the 29th. Is it?
Damn it, boy.
Isn't that Radwood?
Yes.
Oh, dang.
Hey, so let's just sit in the Turbo Cup the entire Radwood show, and we can have my phone set up.
Well, I was going to say, depending on when it is, we could just go to Radwood and then go to your... We'll figure that out.
Yes, we shall.
we-
Speaking of figuring it out, we are not going to go over NASCAR because we are up on time.
We are up
Other
on
than the
time.
fact that Kyle Larson won and he now leads the regular season's points, Sebastian Loeb has announced that he is going to return and he is going to run Rallycross. After a 4-year hiatus, he's going to be running the fully electric Lancia Evo ERX. It is built by a French rallycross driver, Guerlain Kikere. And Loeb and Kikere,
Well done.
Kikere will be a team, both campaigning the retrofitted Lancias. They have 670 horsepower.
Spicy.
And the season kicks off in June. The only other thing I want to mention is the most recent addition to the NASCAR Top 75 list that happened yesterday, meaning Sunday, was Greg Biffle. So congrats to Greg Biffle for being in there. Another guy from my childhood. Ben, what an episode.
And we're going to finish off with some very sad news that we have from last week.
Yeah.
So last Thursday, if you did not see, there was the tragic death of Craig Breen. So Craig Breen has tragically passed away last Thursday at the age of 33 while testing for next weekend's WRC race in Croatia. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Breen family, of course, and with the entire WRC community. Craig Breen was a personal favorite of mine. He never won a rally. He had 82 total rallies under his belt, 35 stage wins, 9 podiums, and his best WRC season was last year where he finished 7th position. But apparently, Craig Breen was a jack of all trades, apparently. So a couple years ago, he ran a Goodwood race. It was a vintage DTM race. He was racing a Lotus Cortina. It's called the Goodwood St. Mary's, and he's racing against...
St. Mary's is the best trophy.
It is,
that they have.
and if you I wish I had the driver lineup sitting in front of me, but he was the only rally driver there, and it is ex-F1 drivers, Le Mans winners,
touring car
champions, sports car, like stacked field of terrifying drivers if you're not that. And he qualified P5 on a 30-car grid and finished P4. So Craig Breen, apparently, you could put him in anything and he could drive anything. So an incredible sadness, great tragedy for the WRC community and rallying as a whole. It is one of those things we think of motorsports as being so safe with Hans devices and cages and halos and that sort of thing. We don't think that this sort of thing can happen. It was just a very odd wreck. Craig Breen's co-driver is okay. He walked away unharmed, and they will retire.
That's got to be scarring.
That's got to be very tough for the co-driver to be to walk away on.
Is that something you don't have in any other sport?
Right.
So that's got to be like it's hitting me now. It's like, how do you? I mean, the survivor's guilt, and let alone just being a friend. Like, I don't know.
So
how you handle
incredibly tragic, incredibly scary. So far, they are still going to run the rally, but they are going to retire the number 42 from the WRC next weekend at Rally Croatia. So incredible sadness there. But that is going to wrap it up for episode 49 of the Clutch Dump. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Like Nick said at the top of the show, make sure you go find us on all the social medias at the Clutch Dump. Look for the little TCD logo. If you're listening to this, we are on all audio platforms, whichever one that is: Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google, Apple Podcasts. We're on all of them. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this episode, download this episode, leave us a rating and a review. If you're on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like and share the video. Turn on the notification bell so that you get updates every time we upload an episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been episode 49 of The Clutch Dump. We will see you next time for episode 50 from a bar.